Okay, so today's daf is daf Chav Gimel. We're holding on the bottom of daf Chav Beis Amud Beis, and we're at the Mishnah. Okay, the Mishnah says, "Haya'imi b'tefila." Person standing in the middle of prayer, v'niskar shehu bal keri. He remembers that he had seen an emission of keri. Lo yafsik ele yakatzer. He does not stop his Shemona Esrei. Ele yakatzer. He shortens it. Yorad litfol. If he went down to go to the mikvah, and it came the time for saying the Kriya Shema, im yachal alis v'lischasois. If he can go up, cover himself, dry himself off, v'likros, and reach ma'ad before the sunrise occurs, right, which we said is the optimal time for reading Kriya Shema. Yalav yischas v'yikra, he goes up, he covers himself and then reads. V'imlav yischas b'mayim v'yikra. If not, he should just cover himself in the water and say Shema in the water. V'lo yischas alev b'mayim arayim. He can't do it with waters that are bad, smelling waters. V'lo b'mei mishra, or soaking waters, which again is a reference to smelly waters. They would take the flax and they would soak it, and it would create a bad smelling water until he puts water in it. The Gemara, Rashi explains, the Gemara is explain that this is referring to meraglayim, urine, which is on the floor in front of him, and he has to put water in it to dilute it. And how far does one have to distance himself from them and soa in order to daven from excrement? So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, Dalet Amos, for a space of 4 Amos. Okay, now the Gemara says, Taner Rabbanan. If one is standing in the middle of davening, and he remembered shehu bal keri. Okay, he forgot when he started. Lo yafsik el yakatzer. He does not stop. He only shortens. He says a shortened version of each prayer, of each tefillah. If he's in the middle of reading the Torah, and he got Maliyah, and he remembered he was Bal Keri, he doesn't stop in the middle, he hurries up and finishes. He says no, the maximum amount of psukim that Bal Keri is allowed to read is not the whole Aliyah, but only 3 psukim, which again is the minimum amount to be considered a full Aliyah. Tanya Idach, another brisa says, if he sees that there is excrement opposite him, he should walk in front of it, until he finds that it's 4 amas behind him. The Gemara, there's a brisa that says, let's stud, and he should walk to the side 4 amas. The Gemara says, it's better to walk to the side so you're away from it completely, at least 4 amas. But if you can't walk to the side, there's a wall there or whatnot, you should walk in front of it, and therefore it would be 4 amas behind you. So the Gemara says, "Hey, mispalel." If the Gemara says, optimally, ideally, it's better to have the tzoa behind you. But if you can't walk, there's a wall in front of you, then you can go to the sides. That's what Rashi says. You don't have to walk. That's the brisa. The question of Hatanya Litzdadin means, doesn't it say that you can go to the side of it? Then you don't have to walk until it's behind you. So the Gemara says, no, that's you only have to walk when it's behind you, where you can't go to the side. Okay, now the Gemara says, if the person's davening much, he finds tzoa, he finds excrement, human excrement on the floor, Amar in front of him, even though it's a sin, because not allowed to pray in such circumstances, his tefillah is still considered a tefillah. Maskele Rava asks, it says that the zebach of Rishayim is the sacrifice of Rishayim is toiv, is considered a disgust. Ela Amar Rava says, Hayil, since he sinned, even if he davened, tefillah was considered a toeva, and he has to repeat the Shemona Esrei. Okay, now the Gemara continues. Taner Rabbanan, if one was in the middle standing of tefillah, mayim sheis al, and he uncontrollably urinated. Okay, and he had this meraglayim, this urination on his legs. He stops the Shemona Esrei. Okay, according to some commentaries, until it dries up. V'chozer mispalel, and he goes back to davening. Heichen chozer, to where does he return? Rav Chizda v'Rav Amnuna. We have an argument of Rav Chizda and Rav Amnuna. Chad Amar chozer l'rosh. He goes back to the beginning of the Shemona Esrei. V'chad Amar l'makam shepasak, to where he had left off. So the Gemara says, Leima b'ha k'mifalgi. Let's say that this is what their argument is dependent on. Ma'ar savar. The one says, Imshal kedei ligmar skula chozer l'rosh. Right? We have a discussion before whether if one has to waited a long enough time, if his stop was long enough that he could have completed the rest of the Shemona Esrei during that time, that he has to go back to the beginning. So maybe that also is the argument over here, right? Whether when one had to go to the bathroom, when he went to the bathroom uncontrollably, and now he has to go back to daven, So we have the machlokas from Chizra Hamnuna. One says you go back to the beginning. One says you go back to the place where you left off. And the basis of their argument is about how long you waited. Okay, whether you waited long enough in your stop, in your pause between in the middle of your davening that you could complete it or not. So the Gemara says obvious question. The argument it says it doesn't say anything about how long you waited, so it doesn't make sense to say that that's what they're arguing about. Only Rashi answers Ella to Kuli Alma Imshak. Everyone's going to agree that if you paused because of this uncontrollable urination long enough that you could have completed it, everyone's going to agree that you go back to the beginning. The Hassam, and over there the argument is about, but the argument is about whether he didn't when he waited long enough that he couldn't have finished the whole Shemar Esrei during that time. He only waited for a few seconds. Okay, Demar Sover Gavra Dechuyahu. The one opinion says that he has to go back to the beginning because he's Gavra Dechuya. He's a pushed off man, meaning his tefillah is not roy to be good at tefillah. He wasn't good from the beginning. Tefillah is tefillah. No, he was still good fit to daven, and the fact that he had a uncontrollable urination means that he had to stop. But tefillah is still a good tefillah, and therefore he goes back to where he was holding. Okay, first wide line on the page on Daf Chaf Gimel. Taner Rabbanan. Hanitzrach l'nekavav, one who has to actually go to the bathroom, but he has to defecate. Okay, al yispalel. He shouldn't daven. Vim yispalel, if he does daven, tefillah toeva, his tefillah is a toeva. Okay, it's considered disgust. We're supposed to clear out our bowels before going to the bathroom. Rav Yehuda, this was not taught, this halacha, if you can't hold it in. If he sees in himself that he is able to hold it in, his tefillah is considered a good tefillah. Then what says ad kama? How long does he have to be able to hold it in for? Rav Sheshes is ad parsa, the distance of walking a parsa, which in our times is about 72 minutes. Okay, some learn this the statement actually on a different brisa. When is it said? When he can't hold it in. If he could hold it in, tefillah ad kama. And how long does he have to hold it in for? Amar Zvid ad parsa. Okay. One who needs to go to the bathroom is to release bowels. Shouldn't daven. The verse says, the pasuk says, "He called likras lekach Yisrael." Make yourself ready when you're going towards your God Israel. Okay, so we'll see what this means in a second. So what it means is one has to make themselves ready before davening. What does the verse say? Guard your feet when you're going to the house of Hashem. And what that means is watch yourself that you shouldn't sin. Okay, watch yourself. If you do sin, have a carbon lefanai. Bring a carbon before me. And then the pasuk continues, and be quick to hear. Okay, what does that mean? Listen to the words of the Chachamim. See what they do. If they sin, right away, I messed up, and they repent. And the end of the pasuk says, okay, this is the close to the end of the pasuk. It says, instead of being like the bringing the fools, the giving of the fools of their sacrifice, and what that means is al tihi kasilim. Don't be like a fool. The fools shechotim, they sin, umeviim carbon, they bring a carbon, ve'inoisim tshuva, and they don't do tshuva. And the end of the pasuk says, ke'enim yodim lastis ra, because they don't know how to do evil. So the Gemara says, wait a minute, ihachi tzadikim, they're actually righteous if they don't know how to do evil. So the Gemara says, no, ela al tihi kasilim shechotim umeviim carbon. They sin and they bring a carbon. They don't know how to do evil, meaning they don't know what the purpose of the carbon is for. They don't even realize the difference between good and bad. They don't realize that they did something wrong. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem says in Bein Tov L'Ra Eina Mevichem, if you don't understand the difference between good and bad, they don't understand the difference between good and bad, and they're bringing karbanas to me, they're bringing sacrifices. Rav Ashi v'tim Rav Chanina bar Papa Amar, and this is for our purposes, what it means is Shemar Aglecha Kashatelecha Beis Lakim, means Shemar, okay, Nikavacha, guard your bowels, your stomach, b'shashata and b'shashata the tefillah lefane, before you go to pray before me, meaning Rashi explains, guard what is between your legs, i.e. your need to go to the bathroom. Okay, and make sure that you clear yourself out before you go to the bathroom. Tana Rabbanan. The Rabbanan continue midway down the Amid on Chaf Gimel Amid Aleph. Hanichnas the Beis HaKisei. One goes into a Beis HaKisei, a bathroom. Choylitz tefillah b'roichik dal amas v'nichnas. Okay, now he's wearing tefillin and he has to go into a bathroom. So now we're going to differentiate. The Gemara is going to make a distinction between a bathroom, which is a Beis HaKisei arai, okay, which is a bathroom which is arai, and what arai means is in those days they used to have bathrooms were a bit more complicated. On one hand, they were more rudimentary. On one hand, they were more complicated because it was a little bit more difficult because you had to have holes dug, and they had their own form of ancient sewer systems, where we'll see about them later. But really, the concept is the Beis HaKisei arai was a bathroom that was used only for urination. Okay, there were many of them. They were sort of around. The people would go in and just urinate. It was sort of common practice. It was just urinated, or it just hadn't turned into a Beis HaKisei kavua. Now, kavua in this sense means stable or firm, or inaugurated, or already used. And what that means is it's a Beis HaKisei that's used also for defecation. Okay, for the releasing of bowels. So basically, hanichnas the Beis HaKisei. If one who goes into a bathroom, he takes off his tefillin. 4 amas away, a distance of 4 amas away, v'nichnas, and he goes in. Amar Ravacha bar Rafuna, Amar Rav Sheshes, okay, says Rav Sheshes, lo shana ela Beis HaKisei kavua. That's only regarding a Beis HaKisei kavua, where people are going to release their bowels. Have a Beis HaKisei arai, a bathroom that's only used for arai, meaning it's not set yet, it's only used now for urination, for urinating. Then choylitz v'niftin la'alter, he just takes off his tefillin and he goes right away. He doesn't have to take them all 4 amas away. 4 amas away. Kushiyotzi, when he goes out, marachik dal amas u'meinichin. Then he walks out 4 amas away, and he puts them on. And then he puts them on. Because the idea is that now that he went to the bathroom here, he turned it into a Beis HaKisei kavua. Okay, now the Gemara wants to explain. Ibaylu asks you a question. Now, one who only wants to urinate, okay? Now he has to go into a Beis HaKisei, and he has his tefillin. Is he allowed to wear his tefillin to go into the Beis HaKisei if he's only going to urinate? Okay, this whole question before was when he was going to the bathroom to release his bowels. So there we know you definitely have to take off your tefillin. But over here, what about over here? Okay? So the Gemara says, Ravina Shari. Ravina permitted it. Rav Ad Bar Masna Asar. Okay? He forbid it. Asa. They came and Shailul Rava, they asked Rava, and Amar Lahu Asr, forbidden. Why? Because Chashinan Shema Yifne Behen. Okay? We're afraid that you're going to urinate, and while you're urinating, you'll realize, oh, I also have to release my bowels, and you'll come to release your bowels, and you'll have your tefillin on. V'arilam, some say Shema Yafiach Behen. Okay, the problem is not really, and this is a discussion in the commentaries, because just because one has to urinate doesn't mean all of a sudden he's going to turn around and release his bowels. But it is more likely that he's going to flatulate. Okay, he's going to pass gas. So if he goes in and he going in to urinate, we know that you're not allowed to pass gas when one is you're not allowed to pass gas when you have your tefillin on. So if you're urinating, you're more likely to pass gas. Okay. Tanya Yidach, another brisa says, Hanichnas the Beis HaKisei kavua, one who is going into a Beis HaKisei kavua where they have excrement there and he's going to defecate. Choylitz tefilav b'richok dalan amas u'menichem b'chalein asabach l'rishus harabim. He takes off his tefillin at least a space of 4 amas away, okay, for distance, and he takes them and he puts them in the chalon asabach l'rishus harabim. Apparently, it was very common that they would have sort of a wall separating the Rishus Harabim, which was where passerbys and the public domain, and this Rishus HaYachid. We're not Rishus HaYachid, but this sort of designated place for the bathroom, okay, which was in like a field. So the Gemara says, so someone who comes to this bathroom, he should take off his tefillin, he should put him in the window. They would have like little cubbies. He should put it in the cubby Hasamach Rishus Harabim that's facing the public fair. Okay, and then he should go in, and when Kushiyotze, when he goes out, Marchik Dalet Amas, he distances himself a space of 4 Amas. When Menichan, he puts them on. Different Beis Shammai has the words of Beis Shammai. Okay, Beis Hillel, no, Oichsim biyada v'nichnas. Beis Hillel is much more makel. He says you can actually take them off, hold them in your hand, and go into the bathroom with them. Okay, we'll see what the point of their contention is in a moment. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Oichsim bebigdo v'nichnas bebigdo. Okay, so v'nichnas. Rabbi Kiva says you can hold them in your garment. So the Gemara says, in your garment. What does that mean? Zimni mishtal luhubanafli. He's going to forget that they're there, and they're going to fall out. So the assumption the Gemara is making is Rekiva says just take them off and sort of put them in your shirt. Okay, this is before pre-pockets. So that can't be the case because it'll just fall out. Ella ema oichsin bebigdai ubiyadai v'nichnas. What Rabbi Kiva was really saying is hold them inside your beged, so they're not outside in the airspace of the bathroom, and hold them in your hand inside of your beged. Okay. So the Gemara says v'nichnas. So the Gemara says and over here and put him in the holes that are smuch lebeis hakisei, meaning on the beis hakisei, the field side where they would go to the bathroom. And don't put him in the holes that are facing the public fair. Why? Maybe someone going by will take. Pretty far-fetched concept, but I guess it happened, as the Gemara is going to say in this moment, and you'll come to chashad. Chashad is that people are going to think that you did illicit acts with a prostitute. And in fact, there was a story with one student, he left his tefillin in a hole that was next to Rosh Hashanah. Okay, and some and she took them. And she came to the yeshiva. And she told them, people there, told the rabbi, who's missing their tefillin here today? Or like we have nowadays, we have our name. People have on their tefillin bag their name over there. So she said, look, Yankel Shmerel, Mr. Beryl, he gave me his tefillin as payment. Okay, so came into Shammai Talmud when that student heard what had happened. When he heard this, he went to the roof of the yeshiva, and he killed himself, and he died. So Ba'osh Shah, at that time, they were misakin. Ba'osh Shah, at that time, don't leave them in a place where people could take them. Okay, so going with them. In the beginning, they were putting them in the holes in the cubbies that were inside the Beis HaKisei. And rats were coming, but some were taking them. So Eskinu, they instituted that they should be facing the Rosh Hashanah, the cubbies outside the Beis HaKisei. And what happened? And passerbys would take them and steal them. So Eskinu, they instituted you should hold it in your hand and go in with it. Even though there is some disrespect to the tefillin, it's still preferable than this tefillin being stolen by either rats or by prostitutes or people going by. Okay? So the Gemara continues. Amar Rav Miyashia, Bereid Rav Shmuel Levi. The halacha is goyim come in sefer. You wrap them up as you would a sefer. You hold them in your right hand. Can I liba opposite of your heart? Amar Rav Yosef Bar Ben Yomi. Amar Rav Nachman. Uvad shaloi tehirit suah yotzes mitachas yadei tefach. As long as you don't have at least a tefach's worth, okay, which is a significant amount of the ritzua, of the straps of the tefillin, outside your hand. You have to be able to hold them. Amar Rav Yaakov Bar Acha. Amar Rav Zera. Lo yishanu. This was not taught. El sheyishos b'yom l'lavshan. If there's hours left in the day to wear them. Another proof they wore the tefillin all day, and therefore in the middle of the day you go into the bathroom and you're going to put them on after. So therefore you should do this. Okay? And therefore there's hours in the day. Aval ein shahos b'yom l'lavshan is right before shkia, and you're going to take them off for the rest of the day. Oislehem kamin kis tefach. You should make them like a kis tefach, like a holder, and you can hold them. You should wrap them up. Amar Rav Achana, Amar Rav Yochanan, b'yom during the day, golem kamin sefer u'menichan b'yadam. Okay? Wrap them like a book and put it in your hand. You put them in like a holder, okay, which like a bag, which is at least a tefach, which is at least a tefach space, which creates a gag, and you can leave them there. Time we say that has to be a tefach to be chotzitz, to create this chatzitza, is in a kli that's its own kli. If it's a bag designated this, have a kli she'em b'kilyon, a kli that's not its own kli. Afilu pachas mitefach could still consider it as if guarded and enclosed. Okay, Amar Marzut Rabbi Ravashi Teda. You should know that that's true. Sharei pachim ketanim, small vesselware, but seen by El Hameis. You know the concept of El Hameis we said earlier. The concept of we need a tefach, barum tefach. Is to be considered a ohel, that the kosher thing, or vice versa, the mace is not does not put concept olah, right, and make the whole room tameh, and that pachim ketanim, even though they're less than a tefach, sort of a denser form of guarding whatever's inside, but still they are efficient form. Okay, so the Gemara says, Amar Rabba Bar Barchana, Kiaveslina Basrid Rav Yochanan, we used to go be behind Rav Yochanan, we used to watch Rav Yochanan. Kiavebayla the Mela Beis Hakisa when he wanted to go to the bathroom. Kihavi Nakit for Daganata have Yohevlan. When he was holding a book of Aganata of Gemara of Medrash, have Yohevlan, he would give it to us to hold as he went into the bathroom. Kihavi Nakat Tefillin, when he was holding his Tefillin, Lo Yohevlan, he wouldn't give it to us. Rather he would bring them inside with him into the bathroom. He said, Visharunu Rabbanan, since the rabbis permitted me to carry it in, Nanatra, there should be a protection for me from the mazikin, okay, where they were common to be, the different kinds of shading that we talked about earlier. Amar Rava said, Kiavi Azlina Basri Rav Nachman. Same concept. When I would go past when I was going with Rav Nachman, Kiavi Nokat Sifroda Agadata Yohevlan. When he was holding a book of Agadata, he would give it to us to hold and not bring it to the bathroom. But Kiavi Nokat Tefillin, he was holding his Tefillin, Lo Yohevlan, he wouldn't give it to us. Amar Hayil V'Sharu Rabbanan, a guarding for me. Tana Rabbanan. Rabbis taught Lo yachaz adam tefillin biyadai v'sefer Torah b'zroya v'yispalel. A person shouldn't hold his tefillin in his hand or a sefer Torah in his hand and daven. Okay, this is the concept that we know that one should try to have best intentions, best kavana, or concentration that one can have during tefillah. And therefore, if you have tefillin in your hand, holding them in your hand, or a sefer Torah in your hand, you can't daven because you won't have proper kavana. Because you'll be afraid of dropping it. Your concentration will be on it. And you can't and you can't go to the bathroom with them. You can't go sleep in them. Not a permanent form of sleep, which is more than shisim nishmi, right? We had earlier David sleeping like the horse, which is less than 60 breaths, about a half hour's worth. Amar Shmuel, and money, vika'ara, and a plate or a bowl of food, vikikar, and a loaf of bread. If you're holding them in your hand, it's very difficult to concentrate. Okay? Amar Rava, Amar Rav Sheshis, les hilchasa yiham asnisa de beishamai. This statement that we brought down before, when we were talking about going into the Beis HaKisei and that you can't go into a Beis HaKisei, Arai, and we said you put it in the window, and you don't bring it into your hand, you don't bring the tefillin into your hand. That is in fact Beis Shammai. Why? If Beis Hillel allowed you to bring your tefillin into a Beis HaKisei Kavua, okay, where there's excrement, people are going to defecating, then Beis HaKisei Arai mi bai. Would he even have a question about whether you could bring it into a Beis HaKisei which has not yet had a defecation occur there, right? Where you're only going to be mashtin mayim. So the Gemara says, wait a second. Okay, the Gemara is going to break down this memra to try to understand why it has to be Beis Shammai and not be the halacha. Okay, Mas Mesve. The Gemara asks 2 lines from the wide lines of Chav Gimel Amud Beis. Dvarim shehitarti l'chokan asarti l'chokan. Okay, now this is a statement in the Brisa that says there are things that I permitted you to do here, I forbid you to do here. Okay, so the Gemara wants to understand what's that statement referring to. My love, is it not tefillin? Is it not talking about tefillin? So Amri Bishlam Beis Hillel, that this our statement we had before that we assumed to be Beis Shammai is really Beis Hillel. Then what does it mean? Hitarti l'chokan kavua. I allowed you to bring your tefillin into a Beis HaKisei kavua, but I forbid you asarti l'chokan. I forbid you kan Beis HaKisei arai, from bringing to Beis HaKisei arai. That makes sense because if the opinion is all going in Beis Hillel, then there are things within the same concept, within bringing your tefillin into a bathroom. There are certain bathrooms yes and certain bathrooms no. Okay, that fits in Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai doesn't allow you to bring your tefillin in not to a Beis HaKisei arai and not Beis HaKisei kavua. So there's not going to be a hitarti l'chokan and a sarti l'chokan. So the Gemara says, Kitanya hi le'inyan tefach v'tefchaim. No, you got the whole thing wrong. Forbid you here and forbid you here is talking about something completely different, and that is the discussion, as we're going to get into now, about tefach utfachayim. We know that when one goes to the bathroom, you're only allowed to. It's not the laws of tzniut and modesty. Even when one goes to the bathroom, which obviously points to the fact that real modesty is really about me and God and me and myself, and it really has nothing to do with other people. Even if other people can't see you, you're supposed to only reveal that which is needed. So a tefach is a hand's breadth worth, or tzmachayim is 2 hands breadth worth. So what does that mean? The Tani Chada. One brisa says, "Kashuhu nifneh," when he goes to the bathroom and he releases his bowels. Okay, he reveals a tefach behind, ulefanav tefachayim, and he reveals 2 tefachim in the front. Okay, and another brayso says la'achar of tefach ulefanav loy klum. So the Gemara says in the front you can't reveal anything. So my love, aren't they both talking about idi beish v'loy kasha kan when it comes to just urinating? So you're just for urination, you open 2 in the front and 1 in the back and open. And when it comes to defecating, you open. You have 2. You have a tefach in the back, but you don't need anything open in the front. So the Gemara says, wait a minute. The Tizra, does that make sense? If it's talking about urinating, la'achar of tefach lamali. So I understand you need 2 for the front to be able to have room for the spray of the urine. But why do you need 1 for the back for? Both are referring to gedolim. We're just talking about defecating. V'loy kasha. Haba'isha. When it comes to a man needs extra room for his member to be able to protrude, and a woman doesn't need that, so she only needs 1 in the back. So the Gemara says, the end of it said, the end of the brayso says, Zeu kal v'chomer she'eino lav tshuva. This is a kal v'chomer that doesn't make sense. The Gemara says, what do you mean? That makes perfect sense. A man needs 1 open in the back and 2 for the front and to go to the bathroom, and a woman only needs 1 in the back and nothing in the front. Elalav must be tefillin. Must be talking about his tefillin. V'tiyufta d'Rava Rashishis tiyufta. Okay, there's a refutation of tiyufta d'Rava Rashishis tiyufta. It is a refutation. Why? Because it, in fact, cannot be talking about the tefach v'chaim, and it has to be talking about the beis hakisei kavua and arai. So therefore, the Gemara says mikol makam kasha. It's still a question. Has to beis hakisei kavua shari beis hakisei arai lekol shekin. If it's beis shammai, then wouldn't he certainly allow a beis hakisei arai? The Gemara says no, haki kamar. No. Beis hakisei kavua deleka nitzotzos shari. Sorry, Beis Hillel, who says that a beis hakisei kavua, one where there is defecation and excrement there it's kavua. There's no nitzotzos. Now nitzotzos literally means sparks, but what that means is when it goes to the bathroom, the urine is absorbed. Okay, and he goes to the bathroom and he doesn't have to worry about sparks of the urine, meaning little drops of the urine. But beis hakisei arai, where there is no excrement there to absorb, that's A, or B. So the other commentaries explain where he's going to urine. Okay, there's little spray from his urine, and therefore it could get on his leg. And Rashi explains that we have this problem called a karos shivcha, which is basically that if that there are certain kinds of people who have defects in their genitalia, that they can't urinate properly, they can't doesn't shoot out with force, and those people can't really have children. So people are going to think that their children are mamzerim, they're bastards, that they really didn't really. They weren't the fathers of those children. So therefore, we're very careful to make sure that we wipe our legs from having any drops of urine on them, especially in those days when they wore robes. So therefore, when one went out of the bathroom, there would be the drops would actually show on the robes. Okay, so the Gemara says. So therefore, when it comes to a beis hakisei kavua, Beis Hillel is going to allow the one to bring its tefillin, but a beis hakisei arai, when he's going to urinate and may have these little drops of urine on him, he's going to have to rub them off. And if he has his tefillin on, it's not covered for the tefillin. It's not going to be good for the tefillin. Therefore, he can't wear his tefillin, can't bring his tefillin in his hand into these beis hakisei. Okay, so the Gemara says, "Ihachi." Again, the same comment that this is a kal v'chomer that doesn't make sense. Tshuva mal yasihi. That makes perfect sense. The Gemara says no hachi kamar. Hal milsa, this idea teisi levatar is taima. You should think about the reasoning of it. But like teisi kal v'chomer, don't try to learn it from a kal v'chomer. To eat isis levatar is kal v'chomer. Zel kal v'chomer shel tshuva. Again, kal v'chomer means kal v'chomer, right? Weak and strong, and therefore you would think beis hakisei arai, beis hakisei kavua, where it's definitely a higher degree of disrespect for the tefillin, you would think. Therefore, if Beis Hillel says you could bring your tefillin into there, hold them in your hand, you could definitely do that when it comes to a beis hakisei arai, whereas just for urinating, it says the Gemara, that's not true, because that's not, in fact, the halacha, because of a separate reason. Okay, now the Gemara continues, 2 dots. Taner Rabbanan, haroid seli kanis lesudas keva, one who wants to go into a sudas keva, okay, some sort of party or a meal where he's going to eat. Mahalech, where he may get drunk. Mahalech asara pa'amim, okay, he should walk 10 times, daled amas, 4 amas, or daled pa'amim, or 4 different walks, 4 stops of yud amas each. V'ifna, and go to the bathroom. This is sort of like makes it easier to go to the bathroom if one walks before. And then he should go to the bathroom because it's disrespectful to go out in the middle of a meal to have to go to the bathroom. Amar Rav Yitzchak, hanichnas l'sudas keva, one who goes into a sudas keva, cholis tefillah, he takes off his tefillin, and then he goes in. Upligid Rav Chia, he argues with Rav Chia, Rav Chia menichan ashulchanai. No, he actually puts them on the table, takes v'chein hadrolai, and then he can put it back on. Ban Amos. Okay, until when? The discussion, the commentaries, what this means exactly. We're going to read simply. When does he keep them off until? Until the time of benching. Okay. Tani Chada. One Brachos says, "Sar Adam Tefillah Ma'osav Ba'afar Kesusai," that one could take off his tefillin and wrap them with his money in his afar Kesusai, which is his handkerchief on his head. Okay, sort of his turban on his head. The Tanidach, another Brachos says, "Lo Yitzar," he shouldn't wrap them there. One says, "Lo Kasha," that's not a question. If he had set it aside or he had not set it aside, meaning if he set it aside, then for his tefillin, then it's also for him to put his money there because it has a kedusha. Not allowed to use it for personal use. If he did not set it aside, it's not a problem. Okay. The Gemara says, "La'abana," the Damar of Chizr said, "Hai sudra de tefillin." This sudra for tefillin, the azmane lemeitzer be tefillin, if he set it aside for a tefillin bag, so tsar be tefillin, once one uses it for tefillin and puts his tefillin in it, also lemeitzer be pshite, is also for him to put in coins and other things. Azmane, if he set it aside, veloy tsar be, but he hasn't yet tied his tefillin in it, or tsar be, he put the tefillin in it, veloy azmane, he didn't set it aside specifically for tefillin, in either of these cases, shar lemeitzer be zuzi, he's allowed to. The Gemara says, Abaya damar hazmana milsahi. According to Abaya, who says, a big discussion about the concept of hazmana milsa, about whether setting aside something for a purpose, gives it its intended purpose, considered as if you used it already. So So Abaya is going to hold if he set it aside for his tefillin, even if he hasn't yet wrapped his tefillin in it. Or tzarbe, so avagav deloy tzarbe, tzarbe iazmane aser. And he loy azmane loy, it's not going to be a problem. Okay, so hazmana is going to be milsa according to him. Rav Yosef Rav Nechunya Rav Yehuda. Rav Yosef, the son of Rav Nechunya, asked Rav Yehuda, Ma'o she'aniach adam tefillah tachas merashosav. Can one put his tefillin underneath his head? And when one goes to sleep, he put it underneath his head. Tachas margalosav under his feet, like that's considered very disrespectful. You can't put him underneath your feet. The question is tachas merashosav mai. Can I put it underneath my head? So mai. Shmuel said, Mutra afilu ishta imai. Even if your wife's with him, and there's a chance that you're going to engage in sexual acts, which you would think would be very disrespectful. He says, even if your wife is with you. Okay, the Gemara asks, Brachos says one should not put tefillin under his legs because that's considered disrespectful. He could put it underneath his head. But if his wife is with him, usher. Okay, it's usher. So the Brachos seems to clearly state that it's forbidden. But the Brachos continues, if there's a place in his room that's at least 3 tefachim off the ground, or 3 tefachim down, below the ground, mutter, then he could put it there and it's mutter. So the Gemara says, Tiyufta de Shmuel, Tiyufta, this is a clear refutation of Shmuel's din. And Amarava, Afagav de Tanya, Tiyufta de Shmuel, Hilchasa Kavasei. The halacha is like him, that even if your wife's with him. My time, why is that? Because the same concept as we had on the turn of the Amud on Chav Gimel, Kol and Atrinu, Tvei Adif. Even if it may be a bit of a zilzal, a bit of a disrespect, still it's going to be guarded there better from the rats, and from people stealing it, and at the end of the day, that is the ultimate distance one can go to even though there's a little bit of disrespect in the greater picture. If he doesn't have his tefillin, he won't have tefillin to respect at all. Okay, so we'll take it from here tomorrow.